How many of you have your cell phones this morning? If you've got them, I want to see them. Get them out. And no, this isn't some weird like Apple versus Android thing. Don't worry. All right. There were a lot of hands up, so I want to see a lot of phones. All righty. Now do me another favor. How many of you have your calendars on your phone? I actually don't. If you have your calendar on your phone, open it up. Take a look at it. Then you're ahead of the game, Joanne, so that's good. So hold that thought. Now, for those of you who have your calendars on your phone, how does it look? Is it full? Is it overwhelming? Yes. How many of you have like different color coordinated dots depending on which family member's event it is? A couple of you, right? Okay. Get one good look at your phones, all of you. Take a lovely look at them. And now we're going to do as Joanne Rawls does, shut them off. Now, of course, if you were like on call for work, if there is a family emergency, like keep them on by all means. But shut them off, and I'm shutting mine off too, hopefully. Okay. Done? Everybody's off? Okay. Now, put it back wherever it is, pockets, phones, purses, wherever. And again, just take that deep breath. How does it feel? Does it feel a little weird? No? Good. To me, it always feels a little weird when I shut off my phone, because we all know that no matter how wonderful these devices make our lives, how much easier they make our lives work, they sometimes don't always help, right? Even in church, even if our phone is not right on us, sometimes if it's on, we can feel it vibrate, and we can tell if we've missed a call or a text. And the second that happens, our minds are gone, floating off to what that text could be, or who was calling, and what did they want, and maybe did they leave a voicemail? And if they left a voicemail, then it might have been important, and should I listen to it now? And all of a sudden, you've missed 10 minutes of worship. Somehow, these tiny little things have the ability to suck us completely out of the moment and into a million others simply by buzzing. So for this morning, maybe, even for the rest of the day, take a break from it. Leave it off. Give yourself a break. Give your phone a break. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm on my phone so much that I'm tiring it out, just as much as it tires me out. So maybe, just maybe for a few hours, leave it be. Live without it. Breathe a bit without it. It's amazing what can happen when you do this. I watched it last week at Kairos as Monday was declared No Cell Phone Monday. And if any teenager was seen with their phone, it was taken from them and taken back to their room for them by an adult. They couldn't have them, not for 1 second of the day. And what was incredible, when we asked our small group kids how they felt, they all said it felt good. It felt nice to not be able to be burdened by this little rectangle weighing down their pocket. Now, of course, some of them were worried too, felt a little disconnected from their friends because what if something happened? But for the most part, they were happy to let it go, even if just for 12 hours. It's not something we do very easily, is it? Let things go. And I don't just mean physical things like our phones. I mean, as hard as it is to let those things go, it's even harder to let the emotional things go, isn't it? I think if there was some way that all the things that each of us carry on our shoulders could magically appear for all to see, we'd be shocked by the amount of baggage that our neighbors carry around with them, the sheer weight that our brothers and sisters carry on their backs every single day. And today, our gospel lesson speaks directly to the heart of all of that stuff you hauled in here with you today. Jesus is looking at a crowd of people who are exhausted and weary, who are just as weighed down by the weight of the world as we are today. I mean, sure, their specific issues were different, but the heart of them, Honestly, these people weren't much different from us. Jesus is looking at a crowd of people who are stressed out by the state of their world, who feel conflicted and torn by the politics that they see swirling around them. How should they feel about Rome? One neighbor says that Rome is keeping them safe, another says Rome is keeping them oppressed. They're worried about their health. They live in a world where leprosy and other diseases run rampant, and there are few options for you once you get sick. Maybe you'll be kicked out of town if you fall ill. They're worried about how much money is in their pockets. Money doesn't easily trickle down to their rung of society, and even if it does, there are tax collectors who will be right there knocking at the door around the bend to skim off the top and keep them in their place in society. They're worried about their faith. For their whole lives, they've sought to abide by the law, by the rule of the Torah. They've sought to love the Lord their God with all their hearts and all their souls and all their minds, but sometimes the burden of the law feels just like that, a burden. They look around at their world and they wonder, where on earth is God? If God created them in this world that they occupy, why is everything so uncertain? Why is Rome allowed to rule with an iron fist? Why do they feel threatened at every corner? Why aren't they safe? Why aren't they content? Why doesn't God show up and do something about it? Does any of this sound familiar? Shoulders hunched over and weighed down by political and economic worries. Hearts heavy with concern about your health, your family, your future, the state of your faith. I think our shoulders look an awful lot like the shoulders of those people Jesus was talking to. And what does Jesus tell them? First and foremost, he prays in front of them. He prays in a way that sounds a bit convoluted, but comes down to this simple fact. He's telling these people that it is through him that they can see and experience God. And maybe, just maybe, that might reveal to them a whole different side of God that they have never seen before, or that maybe they've simply forgotten. Jesus is telling them that by following him, by seeing him, they can learn who God truly is for them. In front of them, they see a man who is humble and loving, compassionate, and so intimately present. A man who is there to care and to heal, who wants to walk with the people around him, touch their hands, feel their wounds, wipe away their tears. That's who Jesus is, and that's who God is. That's who these people, who they are knowing their Father in heaven is, a God who cares, who is present, who loves deeply, who sees them and sees all of that baggage that they are carrying. And maybe in that moment, that might just help lift some of those burdens they're feeling. And then Jesus takes things a step further. He says he has come for the weary and the tired and the overburdened. He calls to them and he says that in him they can find rest. All of those things that are buzzing around their heads, all of those things that are weighing them down, in him they will find peace. Those worries that they have about the law, about making sure that they're dotting every I and crossing every T, that's about to change. Because in Jesus, they can throw off the yoke of the law and take up a yoke of faith. A life that comes down to one thing: loving God and loving your neighbor. They no longer need to feel the weight of the law, but simply the weight of knowing that they have a God who adores them and who calls them to adore each other. It seems so simple. And yet think about how life-changing that message can be. To know that all of the things that you've worried about, stressed about, Jesus takes away by a simple commission to love, humbly and gently. And maybe that seems too easy, being called to wear the yoke of Christ, which is simply a yoke of love. But think about what a little bit of love, of Christ-like love, a love that sacrifices for the other, a love that serves the other, a love that lives for the other. Think about what that kind of love could do for the world and for all of those burdens that we carry. In that kind of love, would our politics change? Would the way we view our relationship with money change? Would the way that we view the world around us change? Would it change how we spend our time? Would our faith itself change? Would we change if we simply chose to take up Christ's yoke of love and live with that first and foremost in our minds? Would the world see Christ, see God differently if those who proclaim a faith in God lived in love rather than in division and conflict? Would we help people learn who God is if we lived a little bit more like Jesus? Just like Jesus helped the people of Galilee see who God was by the way he lived. Would we maybe feel a little less burdened and weighed down if we lived in love, if the people around us did so too? I think it's possible that we might. But here's the thing. While yes, this gospel is showing us a new way to live, a new way to breathe a bit easier, a new way to approach life with each other, it's also about one very simple promise, one very simple message, that Jesus lifts our burdens, whatever they may be. And the truth of the matter is, each of us has something, maybe even a couple of some things that keep us weighed down, that keep us from truly living into the beautiful life that God has given us. Maybe it's a recent burden, something that has just happened. Maybe it's something that happened years ago that we just can't seem to let go. Maybe it's not even one specific thing, but the culmination of so many things that we can't even name what the original burden was in the first place. Whatever it is, something is keeping you from being your most authentic, beloved child of God self. So here's what I want you to do. I'm asking a lot of favors of you this morning. I apologize. I'm not going to make you walk up and down the aisle yoked together. Don't worry. You get to stay in your seats for this part. I honestly want you to close your eyes. I want you to close your eyes and visualize whatever that thing is, whether it's a person, an event, some kind of black cloud that shifts and morphs based on the day. I want you to picture it and hold it in your mind. Maybe even feel as it truly feels, like a weight on your shoulders. Just take a few moments to feel that. Open your eyes. It is upon this cross that those burdens are lifted off of your shoulders and placed onto one who could hold them and free you from them. You are free. You are a free child of God, called to live fully, to live unburdened, to live with love for all. I know it's not as easy as just shutting off your phone. But we can lay our burdens here. You don't have to carry them, certainly not alone. Just as our kids walk down arm in arm, that is how you walk through life with Christ. Christ has you. Christ can hold your burdens for you. It's okay if you're weary. It's okay if you feel overburdened. Beneath this cross, you can rest. Christ has you forever and for always. Child of God, lay your burdens here. Rest. Rest. Amen.